Hi, and welcome to my new series, Beyond Barriers with me, Ella B. This is a new series that I'm bringing you where I aim to celebrate and share with you the stories of all the positive people who've had such a positive impact on the disabled sporting community. I have got such a lineup of interviews for you coming your way over the next few weeks, and I'm really excited to share them with you. Some of the stories that I have listened to are just incredible, and a lot of these people have helped me through my sporting career as well. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce my first guest of the series. Her name is Sophie Elwes. She is an adrenaline junkie and just loves chasing those extreme sports. She is a water skier, she is a snow skier, she is now a podcast producer as well, and she also is a backup mentor. She is an all-round legend and is such a lovely girl. I had such a lovely time talking to her with so many laughs, and I can tell you her infectious smile will definitely rub off on you too. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Sophie and hand it over to her. Enjoy!
Hello! Hi, Ella.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks, love. Enjoyed the session this morning.
Did you enjoy it?
I did, it's so much better, like, as well. I mean, it was great, like, from the beginning, but I can sort of, see, like, that you're just getting better, and I don't know, don't take it the wrong way, just kind of more confident and just really good.
Thank you so much. No, it's really lovely. It's really weird situation to be in your living room and just talking to your screen. And I think it's taken a while to get used to that.
It's amazing, honestly. Like, no one was really, there was nothing available, and it was something that I was missing. Like, I was sort of happy enough getting on with everything, but I was just missing, like, working out and moving, and it's just like I didn't want to go to the park. Like, I did a bit, but there's so many people around, and so it's honestly been amazing. Keep it going.
Oh, thank you very much. That's so lovely to hear. And it's just nice to know that it's helping, so that's good. It's my motivation as well, so it's good.
I'm sure. I've got my little cat. I've got my little cat who's like mega hyperactive at times, so apologies if she's like,
No, so I absolutely love the updates of her on Instagram. I think she's so cute. How long have you had
is
now?
pretty cute. Couple of months. God, is it really that long? 6 weeks, maybe. Couple months.
And how old is she?
She's about 3 months.
So lovely.
She's mega cute. I'm not going to pick her up. She's very needy though, She's like having issues. Like, do you have cats?
No, I don't actually, no.
Okay, so I've never had one either, and she keeps climbing up on my legs, and my knees are so scratched, which is bad. So obviously I can't feel it when she's like
and then you just realise she's there.
Yeah, exactly. She just likes sitting on my lap like a little baby.
Bless her, so cute. I do love cats, but I've never had one myself. I think you're like the ideal person to be, because you're like that adrenaline junkie that I always wish I had the courage to do all those sports.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I
mean, it comes with risk though, massively. I think my mum wishes that I just did like wheelchair basketball or something. Which, like...
Go extreme!
Yeah, I know. Anyway, we'll keep that for in a bit.
I guess we met a few years ago, probably 2 or 3 years ago. I was trying to think back at Heron Lake, which is obviously the home of British water skiing, disabled water skiing. Saw you water skiing. It's just like, oh my goodness, she is amazing.
Oh.
But when you got out, it's even more reassuring, because we're similar levels of disability, aren't we, as well? But I think the best place to start, I'm a bit of a Julie Andrews fan, love musicals. And I think the best place to start is at the very beginning.
Love it. Love Sound of Music as well.
I love Sound of Music. So I don't know much about your early life. So I don't know if you could start by telling me a little bit about you as a child, and what were you interested in as a child? Were you sporty before your accident, or were you close to your family? Things like that.
Yeah, okay. So I grew up in London, fairly kind of average, like nothing particularly remarkable, spectacular, or whatever. You know, at school I was kind of, you know, I was decent at most things. You know, I was kind of, you know, got through, and like always was friends and that sort of thing. Fairly standard. Was lucky enough. My parents really wanted us to have a lot of opportunities to do stuff. We weren't the sort of family that like went skiing every year or whatever, but they wanted to give us an experience of like as many things as we could try to see, like when we were older, then we could like take things on. So, you know, they took us like skiing, took us like sailing in Scotland, and, you know, played tennis, all these sort of things. Obviously not everything, but a lot of stuff that they really enjoyed and they thought we might like, and like learn how to ride a pony and stuff. And so as time went on, like as I was sort of at secondary school, I always loved skiing. Like I just just kind of that adrenaline, and, you know, when you get it right, all that sort of stuff, the speed and being in the mountains, that's always been a huge thing for me. You know, I've done a lot of skiing now, and sometimes, you know, you're just sat like at the top of a hill, you know, top of a mountain, you're looking and the view is just vast, and it's like, you know, and that really does something for me, to be honest.
I totally agree. My sister lives in Switzerland, and so she lives in a ski resort, Verbier.
Oh wow, very nice. Very fancy. I've never been to Verbier.
Yeah, she went out to a ski season and never came back. So
cool.
I totally see it. Like you're at the top of that mountain, and you're like, I'm so insignificant in the world right now. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone should have the opportunity to just see in real life, you know, with the sun. And so like skiing was the kind of thing that I picked up on, kind of thing. Like my brothers, I've got two brothers, one older, one younger, you know, they were into like other things, like, you know, football or like, you know, whatever, but skiing was like always my thing. So, you know, when I was at school, we had like a ski team. It was kind of like a little team, and we used to go to like a place in High Wycombe, which I can't remember what it's called actually, but like proper dry ski slope, you know, learning to ski there, like, you know, a few times. And then we went on a ski trip to Scotland.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, like, you know, not exactly sort of Verbier and stuff, but like, you know, really cool to sort of build on the skills and things. You know, it still wasn't great as an able-bodied skier, to be fair. I think I never really had the opportunity like to I never did a season before I had my accident, and for me that was kind of, you know, what I needed. So
I totally agree. Love skiing, and I think it helps to have learnt it before once you're able-bodied as well. I think I don't know, I think I'm a bit of a wimp, so I had that massive fear when I first went down a mountain, like, oh my god, I'm going at such high speeds here and I can't control myself, and what's going to happen. But if you've done that before, then I guess that really helped.
Definitely. And like having a familiarity with the sort of technical aspects and understanding actually how it works, and, you know, how to sort of use your edges and how to stop and stuff. Like there's a lot of boring you know, stuff involved if you're, I mean, kind of the story goes, I had in 2011 I sustained a spinal cord injury. I was at a friend's house in South London, sitting on a roof terrace, and I fell 8 meters. Was at a party, so I, you know, had a few, just kind of lost my balance, and yeah, it was really bad when it happened. I don't remember any of it because of the shock, which is, you know, a total blessing, of course. But like I hit my head, which was pretty bad. Had quite a few injuries, obviously broke my back, all sorts of things like that.
And how old were you at this age?
I was 22. Yeah.
22.
22.
So yeah,
so
that's really hard. It's a tough age.
It's an interesting one, that actually, like, you know, I had just graduated from uni. I was like, you know, living in London, ready to go, like kind of full of life, all that stuff, like loving life.
And actually like adult life at that point as well.
And people say like, oh, that's really hard that it happened then. But I actually I feel like I'm quite lucky that it happened then, because I was at the point when I was like about to go into work and like had to grow up and all that stuff. And because I was so young and, you know, I was still kind of active and in shape or whatever, like having to relearn all those things at that age wasn't so difficult. You know, for a long time at the beginning, I really struggled with not having decent core, like, especially with skiing, like that was such a challenge. you know, most other monoskis, in fact, pretty much all of them, probably 99% of them are lower levels. Some are higher, not many my level. Classification, I knew one other person who's my level of like all the athletes on the racing circuit. Yeah, so it was like, I definitely, you know, set myself a challenge trying to do that. For sure.
But at that stage, so thankful that you've got your arms as well, though.
100%.
You wouldn't have been able to see otherwise. So that's good.
Massively.
Yeah. So back to that day of your accident. How were you feeling beforehand? What, like, were you feeling just young, carefree, loving life? Was that sort of the way of it going?
So the last thing I remember before my injury, it's weird, it's super vivid, is like the day it happened. And I was walking across Hyde Park with my now sister-in-law, who's my brother's girlfriend at the time. Oh, nice. And we just decided to go for like quite a long walk right across the park. And we went for sushi at Itsu. And I remember it so vividly.
It's really weird what you remember.
So weird. I don't remember the week before, really. Wow. And then, yeah, like on the way back, we were about to get on the bus. We were like waiting for a bus, and we sort of popped into like an off license or newsagents or whatever. And we were debating. I was debating whether to go to this party or not. And I remember I wasn't feeling that well, and I was like, you know, I'd just been doing like a sort of internship thing. I was like waiting on a job that I really wanted. And that was the other thing. Like, it was a real crux time for like my work, and I don't know, I wasn't really feeling up for it, but clearly like either I was persuaded or you know, I decided. I mean, I was a massive party girl, so I definitely would have been like, yeah, let's
like me, easily persuaded,
drink through it. So that was the last thing, really. And then sort of following on from that, I was in an induced coma for sort of 6 weeks or so. And I think, like, for my family, obviously, it was pretty clear that I was paralyzed, and they didn't know about complete or incomplete anything, but their real concern right then was that I'd kind of make it through, because obviously I was in a coma, and if I'd be brain damaged, that was what they were really concerned about, you know, obviously. So yeah, that's really rough time for them.
Weeks.
Long time. Yeah, I was at King's College Hospital, and it was an amazing hospital. Like, they were just so great. I had my own room because I had MRSA, which, you know, it's kind of a blessing. But yeah, just really shit for my family, really, and friends. They were all amazing.
And how did you then cope with being told that you weren't then ever going to walk? Obviously, I've never experienced that, so it's just, I've always just grown up with, I don't know what I've lost. It's just one of those things. This is just me. But for you, that's a huge change. And being told you're never going to walk again, that's just something else. I can't imagine how much felt.
Yeah, I mean, initially I was like, when I really early on in ICU, I don't remember this, but I asked the doctors. I kind of woke up. I was, you know, if you're coming out of an induced coma, it's not like you suddenly wake up and you're like, hello world. It's kind of a gradual thing. You're very sedated. And I asked the medical professionals or doctors or whatever, like, why can't I feel my legs or something like that? And they told me. And actually, going back, my mum had said to them, I didn't know this at the time, but my mum had said to them, like, please don't tell her if I'm not there or if we're not there. You know? And so she found out that I had asked, but it was actually okay, because I then forgot, because I was so sedated. So it was kind of good, because it was a gradual thing, and it wasn't like suddenly, oh my God, I can't feel my legs. But one day I had a visit from someone from one of the spinal units. I can't remember which. I can't remember what their title is, but they kind of, assess you, sort of thing. And I remember I was on my own with this guy, and I was talking about the spinal cord injury. We were discussing it, and I was saying, and I was more awake by this point. And I said, you know, will I walk again? And he was quite upfront with it. And he said, no, like, it's highly unlikely. And that was the first time I remember just like being kind of angry with him. I think his bedside manner probably wasn't great, but also just not believing him, just thinking, nah, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, that's not my reality, you know?
No.
But then, you know, with time, I think after that, I got to Stoke Mandeville, which is obviously, you know, it's an amazing spinal unit, and I was really lucky to go there. There was so many people, and just had a great kind of community around me. But yeah, like, then it kind of really hit home when I started learning how to do stuff, and yeah.
And how long were you in Stoke Mandeville for?
So I was there, I mean, I was in hospital in total for 6 months,
Okay.
probably at King's for, I think I did rehab for about 3 months, probably there for a bit beforehand. I had another surgery before that. So yeah, probably 4 months, I would say, something like that.
Yeah, so it's just amazing how your life can just change in a split second, but then you've still got that period of time where you've just got to relearn everything. And I think that's what people don't understand about an injury sometimes. It's not as quick as 2 weeks. Like, it is that 6 month process that you've just got to go through.
Massively. And I found it really difficult, you know. I think being a girl, having shorter arms and, you know, being generally quite small, it, you know, sure, it doesn't help, but
No.
like, I remember I really wanted to learn how to do like toilet transfers, because, you know, I didn't want to mess around. I just wanted to do it like normally.
Yeah.
And I found that really difficult, and bed transfers, and I think it was because I was like, you know, I'd lost a lot of strength. I wasn't, you know, I was weak, so it was difficult. Now, you know, like, it's, you don't think twice about doing a transfer, like, no biggie. But then, like, oh my gosh, so difficult.
And amazingly, probably having that loss of balance all of a sudden, because you're
Yeah,
always
oh,
using that core.
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
But I'm guessing your parents were quite thankful at that point, because obviously being told you've got like a 40% chance of survival is very, very high. So to have you alive, I'm guessing they were just happy to, well, not happy, but they would just deal with whatever's thrown at the next.
Totally. And that's all you can do, really. Like, you can't deal with something like paralysis. Like, in that system, it's a process, and you just have to wait until you get to St. Mandeville. And I feel so fortunate that the care I had was just second to none, you know. Like, even though I got MRSA, that's like no one's fault, but like, being at ICU, being at King's for ICU, then being at St. Mandeville, it was just, you know, the physios were incredible. It was the best possible kind of care I could have asked for. And like, I since found out like how much it would have cost, like the NHS or whatever, for that whole, you know, 6 months of like intensive care and stuff. I can't remember now actually how much, but
just a hell of a lot.
just like crazy. So obviously super grateful to the NHS.
I'm so thankful, and I'm just, because obviously I was born at Stoke Mandeville, so to have
wow.
so lucky. I was born in Aylesbury, so just to be so close to Stoke Mandeville and have it on my doorstep, like, it's just, it's an amazing place. I can't ever thank them enough for what they've done.
That's so fortunate. It's almost like fate that you were born there.
I know.
Or was there a reason? Did they know before you were born?
No, so my parents had moved into the area, and then it only happened 5 days before I was born, so it was, no one really knew at that point. So very, very lucky. There's
no better place for a child. I actually, I went to a school in, this is definitely sidetracking, so sorry about that. But I went to a school with backup. There's a service called Schools Advocacy, and it's basically where you can go into schools or universities and talk to a class or talk to the school, you know, if there's a child with a spinal cord injury there. So I went in, there was this little girl, she was 6, she was in year 2, she was like super cute, really like determined, and I was like, this girl is going to be great. And I like went and talked to her class, and she also, like, they had lived in Aylesbury as well, which was, you know, really fortunate. And she was going to like Stoke Mandeville to do some like sports and stuff. It's nice to know this, because I think it can be massively isolating. That's certainly something that I found when I returned home from hospital. That was probably the hardest time of all, really.
Just feeling that isolated. Leads me on to that next section. Thank you very much. It's like, you know. But yeah, I was going to ask like that, because I never had that life after injury, and that first time going home, that must have been so scary. Like, just your house is all of a sudden very foreign to you, I can imagine. And you've got, could you even get to your room? That's the only thing. Like, well,
I mean, the house we were living in, we were actually going to move anyway. So instead of doing work or whatever, we moved when I had my injury. Like, my parents were just so sort of, you know, accommodating, and like, so yeah, basically they moved to London, which they'd, anyway, they moved to London, which was brilliant, because that's where I was living before, and I didn't really, previously they lived in Oxfordshire actually, and I didn't really want to live there, and I was sort of looking at housing. I really didn't want to go back and live in the country, because I think I would have been there for like a long time. I wouldn't have, I don't know, but yeah, so we moved to London, and we moved into a flat that was like super accessible. It was amazing. But yeah, absolutely, it was so difficult. And being like this 22-year-old girl, fresh from uni, you know, I loved partying. Like I loved clubbing, you know, I was sort of, yeah, like really sociable. And that was the thing that was important to me at that stage was, you know, my social life and who I was out with. And, you know, I was definitely like a little more shallow than I am now. Just because it was kind of about like, you know, what's going on in London and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I wanted that life again. I just didn't want to accept that it was going to be so different. And like, you know, if you ever try going out in London, like out, it's so difficult. And it, even if it's accessible, even if there's a lift or whatever, it's still so difficult, you know, as you'll know,
So,
like,
I can imagine.
so packed. Like, and also the other thing, like when I had the injury, like I said, I had a head injury, so I lost my hearing in this ear and in my right ear, and it was so like, that was so difficult. Going to a pub or something like that, somewhere I was always super happy, couldn't hear a thing, you know, and it's just so embarrassing having to ask people. And so yeah, it was just such a change.
Also, your energy levels must have completely changed as well. You must have you must have been able to do more when you were able-bodied, and you must have thought your body could keep up at that pace again.
Yeah, I suppose so. I think it was more about like, you know, actually not being like, not wanting to, even though I wanted to do that stuff, like either not being able to do it or whatever. Like I've told this story before about like London and access and the sort of the realization that this city that I'd always lived in, pretty much, even though I lived in Oxfordshire for a few years in the meantime, basically sort of a few weeks after, my friend Amelia, who had been living abroad at the time, she came back, like one of my closest friends, and we decided we're going to go to the cinema. And we were going to go to the cinema that I'd been to loads of times before. We're going to get in a bus, all this stuff. We planned it out like bit by bit, you know, what could go wrong. First of all, got on the bus, and like that was the first time I did it, and like, oh, it was just, you know, now I'll do it. I'm not the biggest fan, not the biggest fan of the siren, but you know, it works, and all of that. But at that time, like the ramp I found really steep, the siren I felt so just visible, and I was so unconfident in my wheelchair as well. Like now, you know, just flip the casters and go. But I was so unfamiliar with it. So that was hard enough as it is, or as it was. And then we arrived at the cinema that I'd literally been to loads of times before. I was like, you know, it'd be fine. I was like, there's not a step, so I think it'll be fine, or whatever. And then realized that it was up a flight of stairs and there was no lift, no escalator. So we literally had to like turn around, go home. So it was just like realizing that I wasn't going to be able to like access London in the same way as I always had done, you know, which is just, it's a hard realization that. And
So going back to life after injury, you started this whole new life in London, which is really nice. And it's quite a good part for a new chapter. I think that's a good option to start and just start fresh. But then how did you come across Backup, and how did you get involved with working with them?
So I came across them while I was at Stoke Mandeville. I was doing a wheelchair skills session, and you will know Jane Sowerby, who is obviously, she is CEO of Access Adventures, or founder of Access Adventures, and she was running the wheelchair skills session and just being amazing as she is, and they all introduced themselves, and she said that she was a ski racer, and I was like, hello, what? And I went up and talked to her. Yeah, like literally. And this was quite early on. My wheelchair skills were so crap. Like it was terrible. It was actually, whatever. But I went and spoke to her. I was like, tell me about, like, what's this all about? And she was really excited that I was keen, and obviously quite young and enthusiastic as well. So she was like, you've got to apply for this course that Backup run. You know, they send 10 people out to Colorado every year. It used to be every year. Now it's every other year. Sorry, my doorbell's ringing.
That's all right. I was the same quite a lot.
Very distracting. And so basically she recommended that I apply for the course, which I of course did, and then literally a year after my injury I went on this course. And I was on the course, you can't go with any friends or family or anything like that. And I was, you know, I was intimidated and scared, but I knew it was what I needed to do. It sounded right. Jane sold it pretty nicely for me. and so yeah, it was such a game changer for me, and it was so cool. And just, I think initially going back to London, you know, I was still kind of a party girl, all that stuff, and I didn't really want to have lots of friends in wheelchairs. I was kind of, you know, I think a lot of people say the same thing. And I just, I didn't want to kind of be that person that only had friends in wheelchairs. Little did I know that actually people in wheelchairs are kind of cool.
Thank you very much.
And like being on that course, you know, that it was such a great group. There was, you know, a lot of young people, and, you know, people that were quite similar to me in terms of just wanting to really live fast, you know, ski and have adventures. And it was the best experience ever. And I came back, and my mum met me at the airport, and she said, like, you know, just like seeing you, like your smile at the end, it was like, you know, something had changed, like something had shifted. And it was, honestly, it was like, I'm like a perfect backup case study, because it was like before and after, you know, it was obviously, it's still a process, and, you know, still kind of getting out and about was tricky and stuff, but it just, you know, it got my confidence up so much more, and obviously introduced me to skiing, which is
that boost you needed as well. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, like after that, no, you go.
Oh no, I was just saying, so yeah, I don't know if many people know about backup, so I don't know if you want to explain a little bit about what they do, and then what your role is that you do.
Absolutely, yeah. So Backup, they have a number of different services. They have courses, so they run ski courses. Backup, I'm trying to do a sort of brief, like, sort of summary of where it came from. Basically, it was started just over 30 years ago. I think it was actually 1986. I hope I've got that right. There was a guy called Mike Nemesbury, who was a stuntman and I think a freestyle skier. And he was like a stuntman in the James Bond films. And he basically was practicing one day, and he had an accident and broke his back. I think he actually broke his neck. And his friends wanted to get him back up the mountain. So that's kind of where it came from. And his friend Konrad Bartelski, who's like a champion Olympic skier, he's the president of Backup now. So that's where it all stemmed from.
I didn't know that. That's really interesting.
Yeah,
okay, great.
Quite a nice story. I love that it's originally a ski, you know, it's a sort of ski charity. Now they've branched out and they do so much, and, you know, they kind of react to what is needed. So obviously, you know, not everyone needs to go on a jolly to Colorado, and not everyone, you know, that's not really affordable or accessible to everyone. So they've kind of catered to you know, the masses. And so they run courses, all different sorts of ones, mostly in the UK. They have a ski course to Colorado, and they have a ski course for Tetras, which goes to Sweden. They have a mentoring team, which I'm on. I'm a mentoring coordinator. Basically, how it works is that people who are looking for some support in terms of speaking to someone with a spinal cord injury who understands what it's going through. The mentors aren't professional, they're not counselors or psychologists or anything, but they can use their experiences, and they're trained up as to how to support the mentees. And it's an amazing service. I love it so much.
How did you then discover water skiing? Was that through Jane?
It was indeed. Yeah. So we we obviously out in Winter Park a fair bit together, and there was one time when she said that she was doing a water ski. This is before Access, but she said she was running a weekend at Heron Lake for water skiing, and I was like, really wasn't convinced. Like, getting to wetsuit, getting wet, I'd never done it before. I wasn't really a swimmer, especially after my injury. Like, I was absolutely useless, like so slow, it's so embarrassing. But it's all right at Heron, you know, you've got a life jacket.
Yeah,
you can still laugh plenty. But yeah, she sort of told me about it. She kind of said, you know, it's a booze up, you should come down and check out. Which I did, and yeah, just loved it. Like, so great. And it was really, obviously you'll understand, I'm sure, like, getting up, especially with a level of injury like ours, is so difficult. And I spent so much time like falling from getting up. But once I was up, I was fine. Like, I was like flying, which was great. So that's kind of what kept me going. But yeah, like, so after that, I kind of did a few more those weekends, I think, and then just, you know, became a member and started going properly and stuff. Well, not properly, but, you know, started going kind of independently. But trying to get up, I don't know, like over a summer, I probably spent 6 weeks, like literally. And you may have seen me then, but like people down there will know I'm sort of got a bit of a reputation for like learn to get, like trying to get up, like back of the boat, you're saying, like in gear, hit it. And then the boat like goes, and I would just go sort of like that.
I know the feeling.
And just be so frustrated, just hit the water, and like people could hear me the other side of the lake, be like, you know, cursing and blinding or whatever, just so frustrated.
Then you come out, you'll see, and you're like, I've got to get back in it. In the
100%, and you're exhausted as well. That's the other thing. Like, you know, you start, and you are exhausted. Your arms are like, ugh. But yeah, eventually I managed to get up, and then, you know, yeah, just massively got the bug, like almost. I mean, like with skiing, the reason why I started to finish, you know, is for a number of reasons, but, you know, it's not really kind of realistic to keep, it wasn't realistic for me to keep that going. You know, it was, all the money was going towards that. You know, I would be working in the summer back up. You know, they kind of employed me for doing outreach stuff over the summer. Quite often I managed to wangle that. But it was just the biggest commitment, and it was my whole life. And, you know, I was still living with my mom at home and things like that. And I was getting older, and then I was going to turn 30, and I just kind of, I was like, okay, I think that time is done. And obviously I had water skiing, which filled that gap for me. And I was actually better at it. I am better at water skiing than skiing. I don't know why. I don't know if it's level of injury, or I mean, if it's, I don't know why, but yeah, better at that, which is nice, you know, less struggle. But I do tend to pick sports that like have so much equipment and so much faff. But, you know, what can you do?
So yeah, you're now in the para water ski squad, GB water ski squad. And so you went to the World Championships last year. And was that the first time you've ever represented GB? Was that an amazing experience?
In water skiing, yeah, I did in skiing. But yeah, absolutely. You know, it's a bit of a shame because there's not really a very big circuit in the UK for para water skiing. Basically we compete with the able-bodied, which, you know, is like, it is actually kind of cool, I think. It was really great at the World Champs. Like, it was just such a fab environment. There's so many people there from all over the country, which kind of brings me on to the podcast. I talk about that in a bit. And really my kind of reason behind starting it. But, you know, there's so many people, really lovely people, you know, all with a disability, you know, besides coaches and sports people or whatever, but so many people, especially, you know, people in the same classification, were just so helpful and giving you so many tips and just so kind and lovely, and just, yeah, it was just amazing, that environment, and people are telling you stuff, oh, you know, you should try this or move your head like that or whatever. It was fab. And that's always what I love the most, especially on, like, you know, the ski race circuit as well, just the people, you know, and meeting people from all over the world with all different stories, which is, yeah, incredible.
So interesting as well. So thank you very much for progressing that on to me very nicely. Nice transition there. Yes, I was going to ask, how did you start this amazing podcast? You've just started a podcast called Life Less Ordinary.
That's the one.
That's it.
You got it.
I
actually Life Less Ordinary with Sophie Elwes. Have you?
I just think they're amazing, and some of your guests are just incredible. And so you've got the likes of George Robinson, and from Sex Education. He was the disabled guy in Sex Education, which I know a lot of my friends are really angry at him, but he's actually a lovely guy. Yeah. So he was in my one of my live circuit sessions yesterday.
Oh, no way! Oh,
yeah,
cool.
Lovely to meet him.
Yeah,
and that interview was just amazing. Oh. And then you've got Baroness Tanny Gray Thompson as well. Like, how amazing! So, what made you start this podcast? Like, and how did you get these amazing inspirations?
So the reason for starting it, really, you know, like I say, when I was ski racing, is I would be there in maybe Austria or Utah or somewhere like that, and there would be people from all over the world, all with disabilities and all with a story. You know, there would be an amputee a girl who's an amputee from Japan. There would be a blind skier from Chile. Just so diverse. And for me, I've always been, you know, a real kind of people person, and just I want to talk to people. And you'd catch me like at the bottom of the ski hill, just like talking to everyone, just because it was so interesting. And I remember thinking, I also you listened to the first one with Alexandra, and we met on a training camp, and her story is just incredible. And that's kind of, she was part of the reason I started it. You know, hearing her story, I was just like, it's not right that other people don't know these sort of stories. Right. And it's not just about disability by any means. You know, I interviewed someone yesterday who is, you know, she's absolutely amazing. And yeah, I'm really excited. I think I'm going to put out on Monday, just because her stories, you know, her message is really great and really important. But really, yeah, it was kind of about wanting to get people's stories out there. And yeah, I love podcasts. I have done for ages. And I kind of, I thought, hey, why not? And lockdown has worked in my favour. So I, you know, sent people like Tanny Gray-Thompson, Baroness Tanny Gray-Thompson, a cheeky email. I've actually was lucky enough to meet her a few years ago in the House of Lords, which was incredible.
Wow.
So that kind of, you know, that helped out. But I think because of lockdown, you know, people are free, you know, they have time, and doing it remotely it's actually far easier. You have more control over it, and you can edit it yourself and everything. So no need for a studio. But yeah, I mean, the people that have agreed to come on and continue to agree to come on is just like, it's mind-blowing, nerve-wracking at times. And I'm like madly researching people, and, you know, just reading as much as I can and stuff about, you know, reading people's work and things. But yeah, that's really why I'm...
So I'm asking all my guests a final question at the end, and I just like to finish on a positive note. Oh, that's my doorbell going now. In the background. So I want to ask you, what is your biggest guilty pleasure in life? Because I know in sport you have got to unwind sometimes. You're allowed to give yourself that downtime. You're allowed to just chill. But what is your thing? Whether it's food, do you go to food, or do you go to a TV program or a film? For example, I know my biggest guilty pleasure is Home and Away, and I'm really embarrassed. But I always, I've missed that quite a few times now. But it's a good 20 minutes a day. It just gives me that downtime that I need. I didn't know if you had a similar guilty pleasure.
Yeah, you know what, particularly over lockdown, I have no shame in admitting that Netflix is my guilty pleasure. There is just so much good stuff on there. We just got into a series called Dynasty on Netflix. Just so good. Really well and truly great. I've watched so many and have no shame to be like, yes, that is how I'm using my time. I have not been doing endless crafting and stuff. You know, Netflix 100% guilty pleasure.
It's nice that you can just switch off.
Yeah, you know, coming back from the lake or whatever, you are exhausted, you know, you have a shower and your muscles are just crying out, sit on the sofa, just get Netflix on, perfect.
Well, so thank you so much. I feel like I've taken up so much of your time now, but it's so lovely to just chat to you. I feel like lockdown's given that opportunity, which is so lovely.
Yeah, definitely.
And I will have to get back out on the lake soon when I'm allowed.
Yeah, totally. Definitely. So up for that, yeah. Nice.
Well, thank you so much. I better let you have the rest of the day to yourself.
Thanks, Dar. I'm going to get back to editing now.
The joys. I need to do that too.
Yeah. Good luck with it. Let me know how it goes.
I will do. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it.
No worries. Bye.
Bye. See you later.
Bye.